There we go. Okay, good. Okay, so good evening, everybody. My name is Jenny Flicker, and I am relatively new to the ecosystem. I've been here for about 5 months or so. I am a former physical therapist, as well as for the last couple of years, I have been a health insurance agent. So I am very excited today to be hosting or co-hosting with Lori, and I would love to introduce Stephen Trumble. So Stephen is also a former physical therapist, or physiotherapist is what they call it in his home country of Australia. He's currently living in the US and is working as a junior Salesforce consultant at Blue Engine. He has been very busy, even though he's only been in the ecosystem for a short period of time. He is the creator of the Salesforce famous beer app, which I'm sure he'll tell us more about. He has a website called TrumbleSF.com, and I'll put this stuff in the chat so everybody can look it up. And he also created a Udemy course that helps people prep for the Omni Studio exam. And other things of note that are really impressive about Stephen is that he is 5-time certified, and he was recently named a rising star through the Trailblazer community. So one of 20 people that was named a rising star. So with that, Stephen, if you could just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey to Salesforce. We would love that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that introduction.
Sure.
Very kind. Yeah, so my name's Stephen Trumble. I'm from Australia. I moved to Washington, DC the end of January. So I've been stateside for about 7 months now. So my wife's got a posting with the Australian Embassy. So we'll be here for 3 years, and then January 2025, we'll go back home. And yeah, so I started working as a consultant for Blue Engine Solutions at the start of May. So been nearly 4 months, which is good. At the start of every month, my boss takes me out for lunch. So should get a free meal next week, which would be nice. And yeah, so the company is really small. So I'm the only employee. So the entire company is my boss and myself, but then he's got a few subcontractors as well, but I'm the only one like on the books, I guess. So yeah, get to see a lot of stuff and have to figure out a lot of things as well. Yeah.
All right, awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about just your journey from physical therapy to Salesforce? How that came about?
Yeah, bit of a long one, that one. So yeah, I don't know. I guess everyone here is kind of this. We've all got our own reasons for leaving healthcare, or IT drew us for some reason. So for me, like I enjoyed physiotherapy. Like I think it's a good job. It's definitely needed and worthwhile, but I just couldn't see myself doing it for like another 30, 40 years. In the hospital system back home, as I was working as a senior physiotherapist. So if I was basically one promotion away to being in a managerial role where I wouldn't be seeing patients anymore. I wouldn't be practicing. So then, eventually you'd lose your registration unless you're doing like moonlighting work. And so I kind of knew I can get, stay at this level for a little while, or if I go one level up, then I won't be a physio. And I wanted to keep moving up. And then I was thinking, well, if I go there, then there's a bit of a ceiling in like the way the Australian hospital system works, because then 2 promotions up, it's all owned by the nurses union. And then, so there's all these jobs where you need to have a Bachelor of Nursing to go any higher, or the jobs above them, then you need an MBA. So I kind of knew that to keep progressing in my career, I needed to go back to study. I guess keep climbing up the hierarchy or whatnot. And then so I was thinking, as I do it, do I stay purely in healthcare, or do I try and open up different options? And then always had a bit of an interest in IT. So I went back to university and I enrolled in a Master's of Information Technology and Systems. So that's like postgraduate level degree, which somehow I could get in with just a Bachelor of Physiotherapy. But so got in, started doing that. And then I was quite lucky. After the first semester, I managed to land a job in IT. So at that point, I was doing, like, whilst I was studying, I was doing part-time physio, part-time university. And then I managed to get an IT job. So then switched to that. And then I just found I was learning so much more on the job than I was at university. So I ended up like early withdrawing from university. So they have in Australia, like I haven't seen if you guys offer it here. But so like bachelor's and master's are kind of your 2 big degrees. But then in Australia, there's an in-between degree called a graduate certificate. So it's the equivalent of 1 year postgraduate study. So instead of doing a full 2-year master's, I kind of dropped out, and then so I still get a university certificate. But yes, I only did 12 months full-time equivalent, and then just went into full-time IT work whilst I was in Australia. So first job was actually working on health supply logistics systems. So I was working for the team that ran like the software, which is how our hospital ordered all of our goods and services. And then so that was kind of interesting that I still get to stay in the healthcare space, and I still get to talk to the nurses and the allied health staff when, they'd need whatever equipment or products to do their job. And I guess, having kind of that insider knowledge, like, how frustrating it is when you go to the supply room and you're out of whatever you need, and then have to ring up the wardie or someone else to go get it or go searching. So yeah, kind of had firsthand experience to know, like, sometimes you do need to oversupply these shelves a little bit to get the job done. So did that for a while. And then I got moved on to the team at the Australian Tax Office, so the IRS equivalent, so federal government work. And so we were doing network monitoring. So looking at all the traffic, like network traffic that came in and out. So finding out how many people are lodging their tax assessments, how long they're spending on each website, if there's like dangerous threats or anything coming in, look at things like that, and then setting up alerting and reports and dashboards for all this. And we did a little bit of kind of system admin type work as well, which then kind of helped once I transitioned to Salesforce. But so I was doing that for a while. But when I moved to the tax team, I had 1 week in the office, and then COVID hit, and then we got all sent. We got ordered to work from home for the next 8 months or so, and then so I was doing that. But at that time it was okay because the whole team was working from home, so like everyone was kind of lonely. So we'd all be on group chats and Teams and talking and whatnot. But then COVID wasn't as bad in Australia as it was in the US. So then we got brought back into part-time work, which I actually found really good. Hybrid, I think, it's a really good model for me. I know it's not for everyone, but I quite like having a couple of days in the office so I can do work like with other people, and then sometime at home where I can work on my own and focus. And so that was working really well. But then my wife told us we're moving to Melbourne, so that's about 8-hour drive away. So we moved there, and then it became I was the only remote person on the team, and then the rest of the team was doing hybrid. And then so I started finding I was missing out on a lot of opportunities and a lot of discussions because the people that have all of that when they're working together, but I was 500 miles away, so I couldn't join in. And so I started looking for other work, and then I got approached by a company called Revelant, who do Salesforce training. So their model is they'll train you up for 3 months, and then you basically give back 2 years work to them. So they go out, they find you contract work somewhere, and so obviously whilst you're training, they pay you full salary and everything, and then they want to get their investment back on you. So yeah, that's kind of how I got some of these certificates, because I got put in a 3-month intensive course. So you do 4-week chunks where at the end of every 4 week, you're meant to pass an exam and then go into the next one. So, but you're not doing any other work. So it's just, 40 hours a week, just studying and prepping. So pretty intense. But then, then right when we were meant to start that work, project got delayed. So we got called what's put on the bench. So it's just more time to keep on studying whilst we're waiting. That's when we found out we're moving to America. So then I got let go from Revelant because I couldn't work in Australia anymore. So I got fired there, and then had a few months where I couldn't work, then moved to America. Couldn't work here whilst waiting for my visa working rights to come over. So I had about 6 months where I couldn't legally work or do anything at all. So when it's oh, Stephen's made this website and all these things, it's I didn't have a job. So I had a lot of extra time. So yeah, I guess some of the stuff I've done isn't as easy to replicate, if you've got kids, if you've got other responsibilities and things, but I had a lot of downtime to fill in, which is how I've been able to do some of these things. I don't know how parents with young kids and things do it, or if you're working other work and trying to do it's a lot tougher than what I had to do. Maybe I might have a pause there. If there's anything else you wanted to ask or clarify, or
well, I would just love for you to tell us about the beer app, and tell us. I know that was one of the things that you did during the downtime, right? But tell us about that, because it's really fun. I've heard you talk about it before. So.
Yeah. Okay. So the beer app was I like beer, no hiding that. And then when it came to America, I had sort of about 4 months whilst until I could legally work here. And then so I had a bit of time. And so I was trying to think, what can I do to fill in this time? And then part of it is, I don't like, if anyone on the call is at kind of that job level and you're looking for these entry-level jobs that require 2 years experience, it's, everyone wants someone with experience. So I kind of thought, like, how can I get experience if I'm not legally allowed to work? And part of my visa, I couldn't legally do volunteer work either. So I couldn't go, I guess, some of the more traditional routes. So I had to figure out a way of how I could get job-like experience without breaking my visa conditions. So I just stopped there. Yeah. So Revelant chooses talent. Yeah. So they find people who's already in the IT system and then come across. So because I'd already been working in IT, that's how they picked me up. Laurie. Yeah. So yeah, for the beer app, then I was thinking, what could I do? What's something, other people could relate to, and what's something practical, which I might like as well as a useful app, because there's plenty of fun things, like lots of other people making cool apps on LinkedIn and whatnot you can follow, but it's like something which I'd want to use more realistic, because like a fitness app is good, but it's easy to get a bit lazy and stop your fitness tracking. But I'll have a beer at least every week. So I knew kind of I'd get there. And then so I kind of set it up, like I'll do it, a bit of a project. So started off like requirements gathering, like what should the project actually do? What's some use case scenarios? Like as a user, what should I want to do? And then I kind of figured actually, a lot of the time, if I'm at the pub, I'm not going to have my laptop on me, but I will have my phone. So I need to be able to do everything I want on my phone. To just kind of piecing together little things like that, and then kept just building out. And then, you'd come to a stage where it's, how useful is this field? Like, do I really need it or not? Or like kind of automate this? Like I find, because like an example, one of the like first simplest flows I built for it was I've got a rating out of 5. And then I decided, if I ever rate it 3.5 or higher, then I want to mark it as a beer that I want to drink again. So, then I can have a related list of like beers to sample again. And then rather than me having to click that checkbox every single time, then it's like, okay, how can I figure out a flow to do this? So then got to go down that path, and then finding out, just different ways. So kept kind of just growing and growing. And then, there's scope creep, but it's my own project and I didn't have anything else. So I didn't really care that it just kept growing. And then you just encounter new problems. And then, there's not, if you search like Salesforce beer app, there's not really too many people to copy ideas off. So then you got to be a little bit, clever with kind of the search terms and things you're using to like, how can you relate it to your custom objects and whatnot. Yeah. So did that. And then, I just post about it on LinkedIn, and other people seem to like beer as well. They just thought it was a bit fun, and kind of realized, it's like a good beginner's entry level thing. Like there's nothing overly complicated in there. It's all, you can kind of break it down, figure it all out yourself, or do it.
So what resources, when you ran into trouble that you needed kind of outside opinions and things like that about what to do with the app, or did you reach out to like Salesforce developer forums, or did you use it, or you just figured it out yourself? How did you go about doing that?
Like I read a lot of things on Trailhead. Like some of the flow people really good, like Salesforce Flowsome is really good, and like Flow Fanatics good as well. Trying to think all the other ones. I don't know if you've done the My Trailblazer Journey badge at all, but like that's a good one. So like I've got that in my developer org, and I keep everywhere. Like I find any good resource, I just write that in, go through. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I'd always kind of just start with Google. Like a lot of the Salesforce help documentation is quite good as well. So just like they've got a lot of basic formulas written out, and then they can give you, I guess, the head start where you're just trying to think, is this possible or not? Like I'm reasonably confident with Excel formulas. Like I've had to do that for like other jobs and positions. So then Excel formulas and Salesforce formulas are very, very similar. So it's kind of, if you already know the syntax there, it's like, oh, this should theoretically be possible, but just how does Salesforce want it worded, and figure it out. Yeah.
What's your favorite functionality that the app has?
My favorite one?
Yeah.
Good question. I mean, yeah, I think for me, like figuring out how to use the data table was like a big deal. So like data table, they've announced it for winter 23. They're going to bring it to normal flows, but at the moment you have to get it through unofficial Salesforce. But what it is, it's, so now you can search, like do a text box search, and then you can get it to return a table with all the records of that object which meets your criteria. And then so what I wanted to do is, sometimes it's hard to remember if you've had a beer from a particular brewing company before, if you've tried this beer or not. And so what I wanted is, rather than having to go up to the main search bar on a page and type in the name of a particular brewing company and see if it exists or not, and then when it doesn't, then press the new button and go. Instead, it's just an instant search, and I can just search a partial word. So I could just search DC, I could just search whatever, gold or something, and then it'd return, oh, you've got Golden State Brewery, Golden Bridge Brewery, and all that. And then I bet, yeah, that's the exact one I want, and then keep all that data. And then it'll say, okay, from here, you've tried these 3 beers already. And then it'll be like, oh yeah, actually I had this one 3 months ago. It's like, I didn't need to write it again. Or yeah, it's not on the list, I'll add it. So yeah, figuring out how to do that. And then I use that for a heap of clients now, the data table feature, which is really, really useful. So yeah, sometimes I've used it for one client that just with their product selection. So just build them out like a nice flow, because their whole issue, which I agree with, is Salesforce the way. So if you're a customer and you go to a store, you'll pick something off the shelf, you pick your product, and then you go up, and then, maybe then they'll sign you up for the membership card, but it's product first, and then they get your information, and then they'll sell. But in Salesforce, you need to have the account, then you need the contact, then you have the opportunity, and then you add an opportunity product. And then finally you figure out what the price is. And then so we're trying to find a way to reverse it. So it's more, yeah, a more typical kind of retail experience for them.
All right, good. Well, let's pivot just a little bit and talk about, since there's so many people here transitioning from healthcare, what do you feel like are the transferable skills that have been most helpful to you in transitioning from healthcare to Salesforce?
Yeah, hang on. This one. Yeah, your question order. It's throwing me off.
Yeah, that's help figure out.
Right.
Yeah.
I did write this down.
How do we see it?
The most valuable. Yeah. So I put for this, I think probably, critical thinking, a differential diagnosis, and a structured approach. So I was taught SOAP method at uni, which is subjective, objective, assessment, treatment plan. And so it's very methodical. So you just ask your questions of the person, see what their issue is, how they're feeling, what makes it hurt, what makes it feel better. Does it change different time of day, overnight, weekends, work days, etc. And then objectively, then you look at it, you see how they're walking, how they're moving, how can they move their elbow or whatever it is. And you do an assessment. So you think, okay, based on what they told me, based on what I'm seeing, this is probably it. This would be my first go at the treatment. I think this will be what can, make it better. And then based on that, it's either it made it better or it made it worse. And then you can, eliminate something. It's okay, it's not golfer's elbow. Maybe it's something else, maybe they got a tendon tear or whatever it happens to be. So I think it's a very good way to, approach it with IT as well, because someone's going to come with an issue, and then it's actually you got to ask 12 different questions on what they're saying. And then after you've asked all those questions, then you need to see what they're actually doing, if they're doing what they say they're doing, or would you objectively do it? Is it actually reacting like that? And, what could be the cause of it? How could you potentially fix it? Is it a bad integration pattern? Is it some weird workflow rule running in the background, or what could go? So yeah, I think that kind of methodology, knowing it's often your first guess, but you should think, it could be one of a handful of things. So just knowing if you hear hooves, think horses, not zebras, kind of thing. But just know they're potential alternatives, which I don't think is maybe as prevalent in different industries, but I think very common in healthcare because humans are so weird. So no one fits the standard pattern. Yeah.
Exactly. I know one of the things that I've been learning about just as a business analyst is to just don't assume anything, right? Don't assume anything, because if you make some assumptions, sometimes it leads you down the wrong way, or you're not really finding the real problem sometimes. So it's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good. So being the main person who's the main employee, so you, I guess, have to function sort of as both, right? Are you doing some of the interaction with the client as well as the information gathering and discovery, as well as the back end work, or what do you do versus the consultants? Tell us a little bit about that and any challenges that you have as being.
Yeah, I do basically everything except for pre-sales. So yeah, my boss still goes out and I guess wins the business, but then yeah, I guess kind of once they sign that initial contract, then I'll be brought in from that point. And then so that's when, like, as soon as the initial requirements gathering and things are done, from there, and then the entire way through the process, going through. And then, yeah, so we've got a few smaller clients. And so there's some now where I'm just the only point of contact. And then obviously I can escalate up to my boss or to one of the subcontractors if I'm running into issues. But yeah, so there's, yeah, some clients I handle, yeah, like almost completely independently. And then there's like others, kind of like the more bigger, complicated ones, then it'll be more like 2 or 3 of us on the case. Yeah.
All right. And what is it that you love the most about your job? What are your favorite aspects of it, or your favorite tasks?
Yeah. So I think it's kind of like double-edged sword with this, but like one of the things I like the most is that, I'm trusted to get, so I've only, officially been working in Salesforce for 4 months, like doing actual client work. But like my boss, John, like trusts me to, come up with solutions, like talk with the client, ask the right questions of the client and get it done. And then it's quite flexible as well with like the hours and things. So just, like an understanding, if I want to take a 2-hour lunch break, I'll take a 2-hour lunch break, but I'll still get the work done on time. And then, if I come late, if I leave early or whatever, it's fine. But, he's got like billable target hours for me. And it's, as long as kind of I'm hitting that, then nothing else really matters too much. If the client's happy, job's done, then it's all good. So yeah, I didn't really want to work for someone who's like, constantly watching the clock and it's all about like the time your butt's in the seat as opposed to the outcome. So yeah, that's good. The other like good thing about working with a small business is there's not the same amount of red tape you might find like if you work for a big consulting company. So if you work for like an Accenture or KPMG or things, you might be with a team, like you'll be in a Salesforce team of 10 people, and that'll be one of 80 Salesforce people on there. And then to get anything, you need to do like 2 months of testing and sandboxes and things before you can push anything out. And it's very more structured, which is, yeah, really important if you got a client, which is, in the hundreds of millions, $1 billion like annual turnover. But a lot of our clients aren't anywhere near that big or sophisticated, and they legitimately couldn't afford for us to like have as structured as rigid an amount. So it's, I kind of do the testing to like, I guess, where I'm comfortable with. And then if I want to like deploy to prod in the middle of the day, like we can do that. We don't have to go up 6 levels to get a piece of paper signed. So it's good. But yeah, obviously we don't work on as enormous projects as you could somewhere else. So kind of where you want to be in that middle ground. Yeah, what your interests are.
And what would you say is your biggest challenge or perhaps your biggest frustration?
Yeah, so I guess kind of the flip side of that is because it's with a small company, there's not as many people to learn from. So fortunately, like I do get along well with my boss, and like he's very knowledgeable and I can ask, but Salesforce is so big that not everyone can know everything. And then so if you are at a big place with 50 people on the Salesforce team, there'll be someone who's just knows everything about Service Cloud, and someone who's really, really good with Sales Cloud, and someone who knows CPQ, and someone who knows Pardot. But like we just don't have that at our consultancy. So we've got what we know, but yeah, it's obviously going to be a lot more limited. So just with that, it means you have to do a lot more research on your own. And there's certain work which we've kind of in good conscience got to turn down because it's like we don't have the expertise to do it. So there's certain projects kind of you might miss out on because I've never touched Pardot. So like if a client came like, oh, Stephen, could you implement this? Like, no, I couldn't. I'd need to be working with someone who had done that.
So do you guys work in certain industries? Do you have any specializations or?
So we do, yeah. So like small to medium business, like mostly business to customer, and then nonprofit as well. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because none of our nonprofit clients really have like the taking donations or anything, which nonprofit seems to really be built for. But yeah, a lot of ours there, like one of them, it's like a foster family thing, so like getting kids placed with foster parents, and then so they kind of just get like a straight funding from the government, so they don't need to go out to donors. Another one is like gives out scholarships and incentives to people to go back to university, things like that. Another one's all about helping people who care for family members or friends or things, and like give them like to, I guess, media outreach and things, and provide some financial incentives there. So yeah, so we do that, and then we've got private industry doing like manufacturing clients, in sporting industry and stuff as well. Yeah.
So Lori had a question here. She says, do you plan to specialize, for example, the health cloud, or to be a generalist and target something like CTA?
Yeah, very good question. I'm still not sure. Like I'm still very early on and just learning so much where I am. So like at the moment, I just want to be better at the job I'm currently doing before I go off. But yeah, like health cloud definitely could be interesting going through, but just finding, I think for me, the right client who's using health cloud, because for me, like I wouldn't want to work for big pharma and help their profits go from 2 billion to 2.2 billion. Like I wouldn't get satisfaction from that. But if it's something else, something smaller, and the company actually had like a good mission, then it's like, yeah, sure, I'd love to help that. If it's a small public private hospital or something, and you're helping their team, helping the nurses actually be nurses rather than data entry and things, it'd be nice. So yeah, I think it's just trying to find that right opportunity, but then also for them, healthcare's tough. And then I don't know about doing a migration job for like healthcare, get them onto Salesforce. I think that'd be super challenging. So maybe find somewhere where they've already got it implemented. Don't have to do the hard work at the start.
Very good. So what advice would you give somebody who's newly transitioning into the ecosystem?
Yeah, so my advice is you just like Trailhead's good and things. It gives you a bit of an idea of what Salesforce can do, but just clicking along and following a module and getting a badge, it's just not impressive at all. And then anyone can read and anyone can keep hitting the check challenge button until it eventually passes. So like it's kind of not enough just to post, oh, I'm Ranger, double Ranger, triple Ranger, and like expect jobs to come in. So you kind of got to, find your own problem, find something useful, something which people would want to use or people could see the benefit from it. And then you just learn 10 times more than just copying exactly what's in Trailhead. Like super badges are good because, you've done some of the work, you've seen something one time, then the super badge will combine, 3 different ideas in one, and then you got to figure it out. So if you can try to make your own project like that, where you're combining knowledge from multiple different badges, then yeah, I think it's just a lot more relevant, a lot more useful. And then part of that, like the next part is then you need to show that that's what you're doing. So you do kind of need to build in public. And so, whether that's Twitter or LinkedIn or your own blog or something, you need to do it and then hopefully get people looking at that. So like on my blog, like there's definitely things which I could go back and edit and make it prettier and nicer. But part of it is, I kind of like, I've got a couple posts about mistakes I made, and yeah, there's learning experience, I'd still never been with the client. So of course I'm going to make silly things, but yeah, it's just like, I keep it up there because yeah, I thought this and I wrote out my reasoning at the time, and then I learned better later. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, shouldn't have done this. This is why I shouldn't have done it. This is why I should do this now going through. So I think, yeah, it's not a bad thing to make mistakes as long as you're growing and yeah, realize it was a mistake later on.
Has there been a situation where you've made a kind of big mistake that you had to navigate so far, or not yet?
Yeah, but I don't know how many of you know the SIA acronym, cover your ass. So fortunately I'd done that. And then so one of our clients, they had who was essentially their head Salesforce guy. So this business kind of just had this one guy who's like an accidental admin until they brought in Blue Engine Solutions. And then he'd been there 7 years, very, very good worker. And he just knew everything. Like if you had a question how something worked or was integrated, he's the guy. But he took a job with another company. And so there's been huge amount of knowledge just lost with his departure. And then turns out there's a whole bunch of things which are running under his account. And then I was having trouble, but basically I wanted to change his username because like we needed to keep him, sorry, not his username, I wanted to change his password because we wanted to keep him active, but then for security, we didn't want him logged back in. And so I emailed like some of the executives at the company. It's like, just running this by you, is this okay? Can I do this? And I go, yeah, absolutely, Stephen. There's no problems doing that. And so I did that. And then it took out their ability to take payments for the entire day. And then so obviously businesses are there to make money. And then so these people couldn't receive any cash payments coming in because this weird integration, which needed this guy's password to be what it was. But yeah, so that was pretty bad. And then to make it even worse, right when that happened, completely independent, their Salesforce server went down. And so there's this like big outage and so on status.salesforce, there's all these things. And it took Salesforce 18 hours to fix the problem. And then so it take about 1 minute for each record page to load. So whilst these people can't take any payments, I'm trying to, troubleshoot and click, and, you click setup. 60 seconds later, the page loads, and then you like type whatever into Object Manager. 60 seconds later, that loads up. So I've got them on the phone with me, just like, what's going on? We can't make any money. Like, what did you do? What did you do? I'm like, you told me I could do it. And now Salesforce is broken as well. So yeah, that was a stressful day. But yeah.
Can't even imagine. That's pretty stressful.
Yeah. But luckily, it's kind of like I could go back and undo it. So Workbench, if you're not familiar at all, you can like set a person's password to exactly what you want it to be. So can be useful because I don't know. You will find some users who just want like a nice, simple, basic password. So you can just set their password to like Apple 66 or whatever you want. And then be like, okay, like if it's, maybe someone not as technological savvy struggles with like email resets and things, you can, cool little way to do that. So I learned how to use Workbench that day.
All right. Well, does anybody have any questions for Steven? If you guys want to, you can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat for me.
Yeah, maybe people can unmute. If you guys have any questions.
Steven, what were the websites you recommended to better learn flows?
So there's a YouTube series. The channel is called Flow Fanatic with Alex Fram Swartz. So his one, I'd say it's kind of like intermediate level, which kind of where I'm at now is really good because there's quite a few like very basic entry level flows. But yeah, so his like if you've got a little bit of experience, like Flow Fanatic's really good. Otherwise, Flowsome, like FLOWSOME, is good. And then is it Penny Lou, I think, as well? But yeah, she might be Salesforce Flowsome. I can't remember. Hold on. Checking up my org.
Would you do anything different if you were starting from scratch, learning Salesforce again? Would you do anything different or
if I knew, would I do anything different? I probably wouldn't have done Omni Studio again because I did the Omni Studio consultant certification because the client I was meant to be working with in Australia needed people familiar with that. But then since coming to America, I have not used it at all. So I've got that certification, but I have no practical experience with it at all. So that'd probably be the big one. I'll just share my screen for a second. So this is this is just one of the badges. I think it's called My Trailblazer Journey. And then so you just set up like this basic thing with your discovery. So I still come in and then I'll add, whatever someone makes a good LinkedIn post, which I think this one is, with just a whole bunch of different 22 Salesforce apps. Oh yeah, Salesforce Ben come through. So yeah, it's a good way just to keep everything that you need, and then I can add in category things as well. So what do we got for Flow?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Flow Fanatic, Salesforce Flowsome, Flow Magic, Jen W. Lee, yeah. Oh yeah, and then I did this course through Certify CRM by Daryl Moon, who also happens to be Australian, which I didn't realize until I started watching his videos. But yeah, it's a good course. I think it's normally $20, but yeah, this one here. But then every now and then, like if it comes up to a holiday or something, he'll do it for half price. So I think Labor Day is coming up, so he might drop it then. But it's $10, so it's not.
That's right.
If you got a weekend where you can study, it's probably not worth saving $10 and waiting a few weeks to do it. Just buy it now. But yeah.
That's an awesome resource that you've made yourself there. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. Just have a look because sometimes it can be a bit challenging to remember all the different things, but then just trying to add in, and then I added in the cloud as well because some things are a little bit more cloud specific, but I don't have too many where I've labeled this, but I'm trying to make an experience cloud site at the moment for a client. So been
That's
a
a good
little bit
idea.
of focus around that. Yeah. But yeah, it's a little bit hard because like some things, you know, admin is kind of my sort of general all around thing. Yeah, I don't like this mail parser tool. It's a way that when you get an email, you can like automate what would happen to us. If you're getting big text chunks, data blocks or things, you can pass it through here and spit it out. But it's like, I mean, it's not really like a Salesforce category at all, but it's just a nice tool to be aware that it exists at the same time. And same with this like JSON to CSV converter. Like if you're doing any sort of data loads, yeah. Can I show the beer app? Sure.
I was gonna ask you that. How many apps do you have in that? This
Just
org.
these two really. Yeah, it's all. Oh, actually, yeah, there's a job search one as well. I had, yeah, so 3 apps is all I've got in this org. But yeah, so let's refresh, see what's happened. So yeah, I just got a kind of basic
That's so cool.
dashboard on the front page. So I try to zoom in a little for you, which hopefully you can read that a little bit easier now. Yeah, so just looking like a beer rating by the brewing company or by the state or by the style. So at the moment, it looks like Connecticut's winning, and what's MA? Massachusetts? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I was in Boston a few weeks ago, and where'd I go? But yeah, I had fun anyway. Yeah, Trillium. There you go. They're #1. No wonder Massachusetts so high. Yeah, and then by the style of the beer. So I'm an IPA man, which it's nice to have evidence to back that up now, that it's not just yeah, talking smack. And then stout, hard to love at times, especially in this summer heat. So I haven't been ordering many of them. And
So
then,
do you have this
Yeah.
on your mobile? So that when you go someplace, you can immediately enter the data.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'll show you the flow that I've got on the phone in just a minute. This page. Yeah, and so this one took me a little while to figure out how I could do this. So like doing a unique count of the states. So like hopefully before I move back to Australia, I can do all 50 states and then plus DC, which is why that's 51. Because I'm living here, obviously having a few from DC, they're really high up. So yeah, I've tried 126 beers in 7 months. But this is just before anyone refers me to AA. My wife uses this app as well, so it's a combination. So it's not 100% me. And I think as well, yeah, actually I haven't updated the filter yet, because I created an experience site where you can suggest a beer for me. So you can use like a similar version of the flow. But yeah, I haven't updated because some of these ones will be beers people have suggested to me, but I haven't actually tried them yet. I need to update those filters. But so if anyone
That's cool.
does have a beer you think I need to have, you can work your way through that. Yeah, so like the flow I use, I'll search gold because that's what I said earlier. So yeah, this is where, you know, just a open text box, you know, almost like the Google thing, but on the mobile page. So if you want to have a screen flow running on mobile, you need to create a page with nothing but the screen flow, which, yeah, I didn't figure that out. I was just racking my brain, and then someone's like, oh, this is all you need to do, Stephen, which was good. Because yeah, on the homepage, so on my mobile, I'll just see the dashboard, but I won't actually see this screen flow. So then I just made this mobile beer page with just the screen flow, and it works. So then, okay, nothing came up. So yeah, so if nothing comes up from the term, then it'll take you to this page where it'll like keep what you typed in as the start of the start of the text. Because I don't know how much it annoys you guys, but for me, when you start searching, like the standard feature where, like, I don't know, if you press new and then like if I want to create a new account, Then it'll be like, oh, new account. It just deletes what I wrote, which I think is like just really bad. And then it just drives me so mad. I'm like, I could figure it out, after using Salesforce for a few months, but all right, enough of me ranting. So yeah, you can create a new one off wheel brewing. That should turn something up. So this is a data table. So then you can see like everything which meets the search criteria for that. And then so you can choose which columns you want. So because some brewing companies do have quite similar names. So I thought, I've got the city and the state will be the main thing. And then yeah, you can sort of select the one you're interested in, press next, and then it'll show like, okay, from this one. Okay, so this is, yeah, an example. The reason why these columns are empty is because this is a beer that's been suggested to me. Whereas if it's a beer I've tried, this will come up. And then so if I was having a new beer, I could type it in here. Or if it's like, oh, actually this one. So if I click on Allagash White, then maybe they're on the call. So Chris Nailway suggested I should try this beer. So I said like, yeah, it's suggested, but it's untried. So there's no information on it there. But otherwise, yeah, I could. There's definitely beer. And then, so this is dependent pick list. So the style of beer, if you got an IPA, pale ale, specialty beer or something. So when you go IPA, then the type of beer, it'll be just American IPA or an English IPA or a rye or a tropical. Whereas if, you've got Belgian style, then your type will be any of the Belgian flavors. And then, so for the rating, we could give this 5 stars. Just remind myself to delete it. And then, yeah, it should just create the beer and have it all linked appropriately now, all in the background. So then recently added. So yeah, so then obviously on this page, there's a whole bunch of things which you didn't see me do at all. So like I typed in the name, I linked it to the brewing company. I did this, but then like based on this rating, then you get 5 beers come out, which I thought was kind of fun. We can just change this. So this is just a formula and then I've got 10 different images. So just like a case. So if, rating equals 4, then return the image which has 4 beers in it, or the image that has 3 beers in it. And then here, so the image search, this is just another formula like within a flow where I take the name of the brewing company and the name of the beer, put it into a Google search, which will come. So maybe I'll show an actual beer. Yeah, so can I get a whoop whoop from Duclaw? So hopefully I haven't tried this. Be embarrassing if it doesn't work, but yeah, then I'll take you straight to the Google image and say, oh, this is what the beer can look like. Because I was running out of storage space by taking photos on my phone of all the beers. So it's like, oh, how else can I remember, if you see like a really nice can or what it looks like. So just had to figure out how to make this. Test demo beer. Yeah, and then because we rated it over 3.5, drink it again, gets checked automatically. And then as well, the try box got checked because I went through the flow. And then, so this wasn't suggested by anyone, so that will stay blank. So yeah, I guess like I only have to fill in half the form rather than the whole thing, but I can still get a lot of data for like based on other inputs. So yeah, that's the majority of the app, I guess. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it.
Glad you like it.
Is there
Oh,
weird,
really cool.
yeah. is there an image that comes up if it's like a 0, or is it just 0? Is it 0?
No, I think yeah, well, I mean, this one doesn't have a rating.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, it's just this unknown.
Yes.
Which, yeah, maybe I should. I don't even think I can give a 0. I think it starts at 0.5.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. 0.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good.
So then, yeah, that's what a half a beer looks like.
I like it.
Yeah, this is just me playing around in Photoshop to.
Oh, that's so fun. Not so good.
Oh, Jeff, this is you. Yeah, you should have spoken up. So it's on the list. I'll get to it, but
That's awesome.
how funny.
Very cool. Does anybody else have any other questions? Steven?
Well, do you have a video showing how the flow is constructed?
Yeah, I do have one. Sorry, I'm just on the other screen for a second.
Mhm.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, this one. If you want to see anything in more detail, yeah, I know it's always like, I'm not a YouTuber or anything, but it's always kind of a little bit tough, finding that middle ground between being like thorough enough that is worthwhile watching, but then not so detailed that no one's going to watch me talk for half an hour about beer. So yeah, it's like 6 minutes, but if it's too brief and you got any questions about like how I did anything, want to go into more detail, or like, yeah, the Zoom was a little bit hard to read, just reach out. Be happy to talk you through any of the stuff. But yeah, so that's the screen flow we just went through. This what's on screen currently.
That's awesome. All right. Anybody else have any other questions? That flow is so incredible, by the way. I'm like starting, I'm just starting to do, I'm doing 1 hour of flows a day to try to learn.
Oh, great.
45 days I'm doing it. Yes. So I'm only on like hour 7. So that looks really
Okay. Yeah, no.
Still pretty confusing, but I hope to be by hour 45, I hope to be have a little bit more of a clue. So
Yeah, oh no, the knowledge comes quick because like I know it looks big and intimidating, but there's a lot of repeating things happening there. So yeah, there's not too many novel ideas. It's just, yeah, you got to find a way to, keep your hierarchy, link everything. But yeah, so this one as well is like very similar, where if you want, you can, yeah, have a look through there and then, even like try to figure out your own version, little challenge, like how could I make something similar? But if you like.
That looks so beautiful and complex.
Yeah, you don't want it to be complex though. So I don't know if that's a compliment or not. So.
It's so fun. Nice.
I just feel like I will have to go through a lot before I get to that level. So very definitely in the beginner level.
Yeah, I mean, we all start somewhere, but yeah, it's kind of, if you got something you want to work towards, it's a lot easier rather than, solving someone else's problem if you're doing, what you want to do. But yeah, this is. Yeah, this is, I guess, like one of the downsides with the auto layout. Like no one can read this, so yeah, like, sorry about that, but I don't know how it's to kind of show the whole thing, what's going on. But yeah, so like I think one of the important things you want to try and do with flows is like recycle elements, like not build the same thing twice. So if you can see here, there's a decision whether like the brewing company's found or not. So when you put that search term in, and so if it's not, you come straight down to this screen where you can edit the new brewing company details. Or if something was found, like, when I typed in brewing and we had that list of 100 breweries come up, but then if it's not in the list, then you still need to create a new brewing company. So then you just come straight down here. So even though like you did split, you can just converge, diverge. Just once, like it's laziness, but it's efficiency as well to get it done. So you're not having to do the same thing over and over. All these as well. I'll try to zoom in. So yeah, this is all just the exact same subflow over and over again. So you just have to build it once. And then, so this handles all my errors. So on every pink element, and I'll just send like what broke in there. So like just send the flow message and then send an email to myself through there. Yeah. So once again, it's just recycling rather than having to build that all the different times. I just call this simple little flow over and over and get the same error screen. So I don't have to make that element 20 times. They just come up with, yeah, once again, you know, make it a little fun, put a beer picture in there as well.
Very cool. Well, good. Thank you. One last chance if anybody else has any questions for Stephen. All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us and for sharing.
My pleasure. Yeah, hopefully found it helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun listening to your journey and the way
Yeah,
you
thank you.
created your flow, your beer app.
I didn't even
Thank
tell you the
you.
best story yet. If we still got a couple minutes, how I got the job.
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
tell us about that.
Yeah. So once again, this is like, you know, I'm flattered you asked me to talk, but it's very hard to replicate what I did, because how I got the job is I was coming home after having a few beers one night, and then outside my apartment building was this lady with a dog, which looked just like the dog I had growing up. And so I just started talking to her. I was like, oh, do you mind if I meet your dog? You know, miss the family dog, like he passed away a few years ago. Just started patting this dog, having a chat with her. Then I kept bumping into her over the next few weeks in the apartment building. Then eventually she asked me like, oh, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing for work? And I told her like, I'm still waiting for my visa, but I'm hoping to get a Salesforce job. And she said, oh, my friend owns a consultancy company. Like, do you want his details? Like, yes, of course I do. And then so we connected on LinkedIn, and Salesforce World Tour was coming up in a week in Washington, DC. And then so I just sent him a message like, oh, can I buy you a coffee? Like, you know, this is my story. Just, you know, if you got any connections, any leads in DC, like you might be able to help me when I can legally work. And then, yeah, fortunately he agreed to that. So we caught up and got talking, and like I showed him this beer app and things. And then, yeah, he called me a couple of days later, and then we started a more formal interview process. And then, yeah, got offered a job a few days after that. It was good. So, yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of luck involved in that, but it's also like, you know, I had this random opportunity come up, but I guess all this work behind the scenes, which I'd been doing like for the months, that's sort of what sealed the deal. But yeah, like this job wasn't advertised. Like you never made a job posting. There's nothing there. So yeah, I guess kind of you don't really know where a job's going to come. Like if you pat people's dogs, you probably won't get a job out of it, but you might. But it is kind of like, yeah, you know, who you might network with, yet you never know. And it's not, you know, I don't know how many of you get people just like asking you for a job in LinkedIn. I get a couple of people a week. It's like, oh, hi, Stephen, can I have a job? Like I've got this certificate, and there's, I guess, kind of nothing behind that. But if it's more kind of you go out and then it's like, oh, this is what I'm after, you know, not too direct with it. Obviously, they know deep down you want a job, but you know, if you're kind of offering, if you can give them something, or you know, if they've got a friend or they've got somewhere they can guide you, yeah, you might get lucky as well.
That's a great story. And I know for some people it's just hard to ask, you know, like what you did, asking for a little coffee to have a coffee and that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it's very fortunate. Like World Tour was a really good like mutual meeting ground where like we could go. It's not like, yeah, as much. So yeah, just timing worked out really well for me as well.
Yes.
Yeah, quite fortunate.
Okay.
That's an
All right.
awesome story.
It is. I love it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This is amazing. You know, I have some app ideas in my brain that I can't wait to once I build sometime. So
Great. Yeah. Reach out if you hit
yes.
have any issues.
So
Yeah.
I'm a big Duke basketball fan, so I want to like track their, you know, greatest players of all time and like their wins.
Okay.
Yeah, especially with the new coach now. So a little nervous, but I figure, well, yeah. So I was on campus today, and it was just so fun thinking about the times where just, you know, all the games and the things. I'm like, I would love to make an app like this. I bet I could. I could have something like you have, like little screen flow, like who do you think is the best, Duke basketball player of all time or whatever. So
Yeah.
it'd be fun to see.
Yeah,
what
you
people
could
think
start
about
learning
that.
about Salesforce surveys as well.
Yes, I love the screen flow. Those are my favorite so far, just because they're so functional. Like I could see it right away. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
field updates are fun too, but like it's just nice to kind of build something that somebody can tell you like, oh my gosh, that works. It's great. So I love the functionality of that. That's definitely my favorite so far. So
What
Awesome.
theme did you use for your Experience Cloud
Oh,
for
I
the
don't even
site?
remember. I think I just like deleted everything off there. Whatever the simplest, most basic one was. Yeah. Is there an easy way to tell? Do you know which theme you use?
Probably the customer portal, or I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, let me see. I'm
Anyway,
just going back into the builder.
did you have any issues making
Oh,
the
I'm using Partner
screen
Central
flow?
theme.
Part Central?
Yeah, Partner Central.
Oh, okay. Did you have any issues making the screen flow visible to the public?
Oh yeah, so many issues. So Jade Long, she cracked the nut for me on that one because I thought it wasn't possible for a guest user because I'm allowing unauthenticated guest users to create records in my environment, which isn't great practice. But once again, this is a dev org about beer. Like I'm not storing any important information in there, so even if I do get hacked, like oh no, lost my beers, it's not that important. So yeah, don't do this for a real client. But yeah, there are like some ways around, but it took a long time. And then yeah, so Jade showed me, and then I've seen a couple of people in Trailblazer have their own issues finding it as well. But now I know how, so being able to share that. But, yeah.
Awesome.
very good. All right.
See you, Jeff. Thanks for coming.
Yes. All right. So should we call it a night?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Very good. Well, awesome. Thanks. Let's all keep in touch. And thank you again, Stephen, for your time.
My pleasure.
I
Thanks.
love your
Thanks for
story.
dropping
It's
by.
wonderful.
So I really appreciate you for sharing your experience and your time.
Yes. Yes.
You're welcome. Yeah. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.